Welcome back. Let's continue to this now. More police officers will be deployed to areas classified as faction fighting hotspots in KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thami Ntuli says rural areas including Nongoma, Estcourt and St Paul in Mzimkhulu will be closely monitored over the festive season. Over 600 newly trained police constables will be deployed to various stations province-wide. Our reporter Mlondi Radebe has more for us on that.
The SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal have received cars from the Department of Premier, giving them the cars to assist them fighting crime in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, because this province is also amongst those provinces where crime is high. I'll just speak to the Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nquthu, who will briefly tell us about these cars that have been received by the SAPS. General, thank you very much for your time. Briefly about what does it mean to the SAPS to receive these cars in the province, and how are they going to be deployed to the police stations?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing for us. The Premier has done a wonderful thing. A vehicle, just one car, will help quite a lot of people. Besides that, the members will be able to maneuver from one complaint to another, from one crime scene to another. Even the members of the public will be able to be assisted by the very same vehicles, because, as you know, that there are a lot of communities that become victims of crime. As when our investigators and our members that go about their business, at times they need to transport these victims from point A to point B. People need to attend courts, they don't have transport, and the police then assist in terms of taking them as witnesses to go to court using the very same cars. And those that needs to get some other support elsewhere, for instance, to Zella centers for those that are a victim of gender-based violence and the likes, end up using the very same vehicles being moved by the police. And also the people that are working well with the police from the communities, whether through the information sharing and the likes, we are able to use the very same vehicles to maneuver. So they are going to be used a lot in crime fighting initiatives.
Do we, at this point in time, do we know, because you mentioned some department that is going to receive these cars to try and assist the work of the police?
Yeah, well, we already made a distribution. There's quite a lot of them that are going to the FCS unit, the unit that deals with sexual offense cases. The investigators there, and I'm sure you'll have noticed them, they are unmarked, all of them. And those that are marked have been distributed to some of the high crime stations, that we worried about as a province. For instance, Inanda is one of those, Verulam, amongst others, as an example. So but there are few stations that we're going to be allocating the vehicles to.
How many cars so far?
Yeah, well, what we displayed there were 25 vehicles, and the others are still being processed, as the Premier has spoken about, over 30 vehicles that we end up having. I know it is not the only resource that we are getting. There's many other resources. For instance, the provincial government has given us quite a lot of interns that have got law degrees, qualifications. They've been helping us, and some of them are working within the police stations, assisting us in terms of administration on legal issues, and some of them are working at the state attorney, assisting us on cases. As you know, as we arrest people, there's always litigations that are following us all the time. The reasons vary. At times it might be because of a complainant who said so and so has assaulted me, or so and so has done this to me. You arrest, and that person later withdraws the case, and the next thing, the person arrested starts suing us. And so we need to have legal experts to help us deal with those matters while we have them in the police. But the provincial government has been quite handy in providing some of these interns. They are paying out of their own budget for those interns to work with us as a police and assist us. So there's quite a lot of money that the provincial government is investing on us in order to help fight crime.
The Premier also mentioned the deployment for festive season, also mentioning the hotspots when it comes to faction fights in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Can you just briefly tell us about that?
Yeah, well, what we know is that faction fights usually happen in the rural areas. There's this traditional dance that happens in Nongoma, where majority of people that are participating in those are coming from the hostels. So as they go back into their villages and they continue with those Ngomas, and there's big parties, and they slaughter cattle, and they have a lot of feast in those areas, and that doesn't go without any violence. There's always going to be some personal issues that sometimes creeps in. that if you beat up someone and that person doesn't accept to be beaten, they end up revenging and taking it out of it being a sport and into become personal, and that triggers a fight between different factions within the community, and also family issues. You'll have two brothers that are fighting over something, perhaps if their father is no more, or and there's cattle that are left behind, and they want to fight over that, and whatever the case is, families fight, and when that fight happens, and it becomes big in the village. So we find that a lot happening in some of the rural areas. There's some in the south coast, on the south, where we're experiencing that, and some in the north and central part of the province. In the main, that's where we have most of these problems. But we hope, talking to the traditional leaders in those areas, to alert us if there's such activities taking place, tensions, so that we can increase police deployments in those areas.